Flatout 2 would be the sequel to the original game that released way back in 2004 on multiple systems, and its sequel here would release in 2006. That would also find its way to other systems alongside the PlayStation 2 with the Windows PC, Xbox, PlayStation Portable, even the Mac OS, and even the Xbox 360. The Xbox 360 version, however, would be rebranded under Flatout Ultimate Carnage, releasing in 2007, but would feature a lot of quality of life updates, more features, more tracks, more cars to improve on the overall gameplay seen in the original game. So with this sequel, it tries to copy or utilise similar elements seen in the previous game, but what it tries to do is it tries to transition the gameplay style away from track focused racing onto more street racing or the importuner scene, as realistically games like Need for Speed, Most Wanted, Underground, Carbon, and that whole underground vibe theme was really popular during this stage of the PlayStation 2's lifespan. So a lot of games were coming out, even popular series were also trying to implement a lot of those similar themes or mechanics into the gameplay. With that being said, however, like Flatout 2 is an improvement on the original in many ways in terms of its overall visual appeal, because it is a very good looking game. To say the first game was a very good looking game, it was one of the better looking games on the PlayStation at its time of release in 2004. So the sequel does improve in that in terms of its overall environments and different types of visual elements that are on display. It's a very good looking game. In saying that, however, even the difficulty of the races and the modes are definitely increased because the game is a lot more tricky to get used to. In saying that though, like the first game, if you race as a smaller car like a hatchback, you'll find that the handling physics on the smaller cars are genuinely tend to be a lot trickier and just more difficult to use. They're very flimsy and finicky and just fidgety, which is quite weird because you'd expect smaller cars to just handle better than bigger cars. But like the first game, the smaller cars are more trickier to use, but the bigger cars, more powerful cars, are actually better to use because the handling is more balanced and focused. Now, it's not to say that the game's easy, but it's definitely easier to use. But the aggressiveness of the AI opponents has been ramped up even higher in this, and that would also make its way into future sequels with Flatout 3 and even 4, which I personally played the fourth game, and those two games weren't as well received. If anything, they were slated because of the severe aggressiveness of AI opponents, making the games just pure luck based rather than skill. And Flatout 2 does have some of those elements, but it wouldn't be as bad as its future sequels. It's weird, like for a series like this here that was popular, how its future sequels just seem to run out of steam in many ways. The first two games are arguably the best in the series. If anything, the first one I would consider to be the best one because it's the most balanced and probably the easiest to get into. In saying that, however, Flatout 2 did receive very good reviews across the board, and the fact is that it got improvements on the Xbox 360 version under Ultimate Carnage, just improved the quality of the experience, again with additional tracks and features. But if you like the first game, there's a chance you will like this one, and even though it's more difficult that I found even for my own time playing it, I will admit that when you do sit down with this and put time into it, it is a good solid game. But in my own personal opinion, between this and the original, I prefer the original game. I just found it easier to get into. Now that's just me, not everybody will see it that way. Some people might prefer this one to the first game, that's fine, not a bother at all. Everyone's experience will be totally different, but it is still a worthwhile race or trying on the platform, regardless of which version of the game that you are playing. It's still a decent racer in many regards, just very tricky, mind you. And the fact is that this game opts for more street racing and importuner aesthetics. If you're a fan of the Need for Speed Underground series, this might be a fairly decent alternative to try out if you're looking for something different that's like that idea but has some different elements into it. So it might be worth a try in that book. With that being said, I would love to know your thoughts of Flatout 2 for the PlayStation 2 or whichever platform it released on that you had access to, and what did you think of it overall? Are you a fan of the game, or are you a fan of the series, or which one of these games in the series is your favourite? So be sure to share it down in the comments below. And if you would like to see more content around other types of quirky and unique racers like this that also saw a release on the platform, then you can check out this playlist right here.